Alrighty, guys, welcome to Chat with the Brewer Live. My name is Seth. This is yet another Monday edition of our webisode. But you guys know who I am on this side. This is Wooden Legs Brewing Company. We've got Angie and a couple people sitting around here. But more importantly, on the other side, Carl, how you doing?
I'm doing excellent.
Now, Carl, where are you from? I know you. I've had a wonderful chance to meet you in person a couple times, but I don't think the people online have. What brewer are you from there, Carl?
So I'm from Westo Beer in West Okoboji, Iowa.
For those of us that aren't familiar with the geography of Iowa, where's that at if somebody wants to come see you?
So it's the northwest part of the state. It's almost 80 miles east of Sioux Falls, I'd say.
And with most of the brewers I chat with, I have to compliment your beard. It's coming in nicely, I see, and the camera doesn't do it justice. I think it's a requirement, though, to have a beard if you're a brewer.
I don't know about a requirement, but I think it helps.
It helps. It's not a requirement. Well, Carl, what we're going to do here is I've got a couple of your beers on tap, and we've got a couple in the bottle here. I'd actually like to try some of these beers with you, if we could. I've got the Holy Ale, the Cocoa Stout, the Pilsner, and the Smoked Red. Now, do you have a preference on which ones we try first?
You know, it would be between the cocoa or the smoked red, probably.
Well, I've already got the cocoa poured here, so now I'm going to be shameless and say this was an award-winning cocoa stout, but you tell me the details.
So that won a gold medal in the sweet stout category at the 2014 Great American Beer Festival in Denver, Colorado. We're pretty proud of it. It definitely helped our sales at our brewery.
So tell me the flavors I'm tasting here. It definitely has that. It definitely has some of the maltiness to it. The sweetness. Do you use actual cocoa in it?
Yeah, so we actually we basically dry hop it with cocoa nibs, which is just crushed up raw cocoa, and it's about light, but almost a pound per barrel of cocoa nibs. And there's also whole vanilla beans in there, fair amount of chocolate malt, a little bit of roast, some caramel, and there's a pretty good portion of lactose milk sugar as well, which makes it a milk stout.
Very sweet, very easy to drink. I can see. I think the judges have spoken correctly. That is an excellent beer, Carl. Now, I'm a big fan of stouts, so I'm partial to it anyway. But now we're going to taste through some of the other beers. I've got an IPL here, and this is probably you guys are probably one of the first breweries that we've had on that do an IPL. Why don't you explain a little to the history of the IPL?
It's basically an IPA, and the difference is that it's a lager yeast, which just means it's fermenting a little cooler. I don't lager that beer like a traditional lager. I just ferment it and cool it and package it. It's also a session beer, so it's only 4.5% alcohol as opposed to a regular IPA, which would be normally 6 or 7%. It still has that bitterness and still has that hop character of an IPA, just a lot lower alcohol, a little easier drinking.
I suppose this one's quite popular when the summer at the lake there.
It's not super popular for us. I think it should be. It's my favorite beer. I think it's the best beer that we make personally. But it's all about what the customer wants.
Well, absolutely, and that's what it comes down to. I've had a number of beers that we've made here that I absolutely am in love with, and Chris, our brewer, as well loves them, but people don't maybe appreciate them as much. But there are some beers out there that blow me away that people love, and it's always kind of an adventure. So I'm gonna pour into a couple of the Pilsners as well. And by the way, the IPL is very good, very clean. It has that lager yeast, so it's very clean in the yeast character, not a whole lot present there, but I think that kind of gets out of the way unless you smell the hops and really enjoy that hop aroma out of the beer.
Yeah, I mean, and we just got, I don't know if you got the batch that we just did, but our last batch, we just got our 2014 hops in, and they've made, I think, a significant improvement on it. We were buying spot hops before that, now we've got contract and selected hops, and it's really doing a little bit better for that beer, I think.
Tell me a little bit more about Westo. When were you guys founded? As I crack into the Pilsner here.
So we were founded in May of 2013. We opened Memorial Day weekend was our grand opening. So not quite 2 years yet, but we did 350 barrels our first year. We did 1,200 barrels last year, and we're hoping to do more like 2,500 this year.
What day in May of 2013?
So it's Memorial Day weekend, so the 20-something, the 5th maybe.
because this little brewery here in Brookings actually opened up in May of 2013. So there you go. Kindred spirits.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have the Pilsner here. This one we're pouring out of the bottle. I couldn't grab this one on in a keg, so we went to the Brookings Finest Liquor Store and grabbed this one. Tell us a little bit about the Westo Pilsner.
So it's a pretty straightforward Pilsner. We're using raw Old World Pilsner malt, so it's a more traditional Pilsner kind of malt. It's harder to brew with. It's got a ton of protein, a ton of beta glucans, but it pays off in the flavor. You get a more authentic Pilsner flavor. And we're using Sterling and so Sterlings are kind of a blend of Saaz and Cascade, and Saphir are another offshoot of Saaz, which would be very traditional Pilsner hop Saaz are, but it's kind of an original take on it. The Sterling is kind of a very American hop, and the Saphir is almost lemony. It turned out real nice, I think.
Now, for those of you that maybe can see this online, I mean, you can actually see my face through it. It is a golden, perfectly clear Pilsner. I would imagine you filter all of your beers, right?
We filter all of them with a couple exceptions. Like our pumpkin beer, we just don't filter it. We just fine it with some biofine, clarify a little bit. We're not worried about it being perfectly clear. But yeah, for the most part, we're filtering our beers. We use a DE filter. I just think getting that yeast out of there, one, it adds to your makes it look nice. And the other thing is yeast isn't particularly good tasting, especially yeast that aren't necessarily made to be left in the beer like a lager yeast, where lager's been filtered for a long, long time.
Well, excellent. It's gorgeous, and it shows your attention to detail on this. Now, how does this rank? Is this a crowd pleaser here?
In our tap room, that is our best-selling beer.
The Westo Pilsner. Tell me more about your tap room. I actually haven't been down there. For those online and those listening in the pub here, where's it at? Where's it located? What do you have on tap? Do you have food?
Yeah, so the tap room's just at the brewery. We don't do any food. All we have on tap is our beer, and we have some 1919 root beer, which is made up in New Ulm, Minnesota. We just decided rather than making a soda, we just buy one so people can drink soda. It's about 1,800 square feet. I don't know what the capacity is off the top of my head. It's probably 70, 75. But we usually try and keep 5 or 6 beers on tap there. And we're open Wednesday through Sunday. We're open Wednesday through Thursday 2 to 10. Or Wednesday through Friday 2 to 10. Saturday noon to 10, and Sunday noon to 7.
So tell us that you guys got social media as well, right? You're on Facebook and Twitter and all those things to check hours and specials?
Yeah, so all that stuff's posted on our Facebook page and our website, westobeer.com. We do have a Twitter as well. We don't do a ton of stuff with Twitter. We do Twitter stuff, and that's something that I don't necessarily do myself. But there's Matt, the owner, or Lee, our marketing guy. They kind of take care of all that stuff.
So you said was it 3,000 was your plan for this year? 3,000 barrels?
I think it's going to be more between 2,000 and 2,500.
Okay. So 2,500 barrels. Where can our viewers find these at? What states do you distribute to? How can they get their hands on Westo beer?
So we're all over western Iowa. We're pretty well represented in Sioux Falls. But realistically, our distributor that we go through in South Dakota covers the entire state. So you can find beer in Brookings and Aberdeen and Watertown and all these places. You can also find it all the way over in Rapid City if you really wanted to. And then we're really lightly represented in southern Minnesota. We just all the way over to about Jackson, Minnesota, and then really just that southern border.
So we've got one more here, and I think this beer was actually when you guys came up and visited us. When was that? Last year? This was one of the beers you brought up for our sampling pleasure. Maybe I'll post that picture that we took. So now it feels like so long ago. This, for those online, is the Smoked Red. This is in 6-pack. They also have this on draft. We don't have it on draft here this week, but we can get it on draft. Tell me a little about the Smoked Red here, Carl.
So this is a beer that I had the idea for a long, long time ago, and I never got the chance to brew it. But I really like the idea of making a red ale with just a little bit of smoke in it. So this beer is not a big smoky beer. It's only 1% smoke malt, so it's real nice and light on the smoke. But you're going to taste that special B malt, which is a type of caramel malt that's really raisiny. And then you're going to taste some biscuit malt and some of that roast. Every now and again, I think it tastes a little bit chocolatey, but it's one of those beers that just varies every time you take a sip. It's a little different.
That is crazy. I get just a hint of the smoke, but I probably get a lot more of the special B out of it. That, like you said, that's almost like a raisin flavor or maybe a dried fruit type of flavor. Really, really cool flavor. You don't get that much in reds. That's usually reserved for Belgian beers most of the time, isn't it?
Yeah, and like a Belgian Abbey Ale would be something that would represent a lot of those flavors. I say a lot of red beers usually have a lighter caramel than Special B. So you just get a more traditional caramel flavor. I personally like the raisin fig flavor, so it just kind of influenced my choosing of the malt and the recipe. And that beer is still our best seller on draft and in bottles right now.
Well, I can see why. It's very good, and you've got bottled on dates here. Everything is nice and fresh. I know that coming up here to Brookings, we always had a good experience with your beers. So I want to know a couple things more about Westo. The thing I always enjoy asking the brewers is, do you have any challenges? What was the one day that you just had to just throw your hands in the air and were frustrated with it? Do you have any of those in the first couple years being open?
Not really. We've had pretty good luck. We've been pretty fortunate, and most of that really is attributed to luck. But I've been brewing beer professionally for the better part of my adult life. So there wasn't anything too surprising happening. During the construction of brewing, we're putting stuff together. Things can get frustrated, and then we did have at one point our glycol chiller break, and that was probably the biggest challenge. Our glycol system was down. We couldn't control the temperature of our beer. Fortunately enough for us, all of our beer was done fermenting or nearly done fermenting, so it wasn't going to go crazy with temperature. But it did screw us up for a few days, and I spent a lot of time on the phone trying to get a repair guy that could get parts and get it fixed. But for the most part, nothing too surprising. Every now and again, we get a nice slow lauter on our Pilsner because of that beta glucans and that malt, but nothing too bad.
So you said you've been brewing professionally now for the better part of your adult life here. How long have you been with Westo, and what you guys do? Or what did you do before Westo?
So I've been at Westo since January of 2013. So before we opened, so 2 years now. And before that, I was working for the Cold Spring Brewery, and I got a job at the Cold Spring Brewery when I was 18 years old. They gave me my first brewing gig when I was 21. A month after my 21st birthday, they gave me a brewing gig. So really, really quite a while now. I don't know what else I would do, really.
So what do you have up next? I always ask those on these. What's the next big beer that you see coming along? Do you have any cool specialty projects, cellar or barreled age? What's the crazy stuff coming from Westo?
I'm not personally a big fan of barrel beers, especially not bourbon barrels or whiskey barrels. I think it's overdone.
You've been talking to Chris then, haven't you?
What was that?
You've been talking to Chris, my brewer, haven't you?
No, I've had this opinion for a long time. I do think I had that conversation with him not that long ago, though. But we are talking about maybe putting a cocoa stout in some brandy barrels. Just a matter of finding them. And then we got a black IPA coming up that we just brewed. It's going to be our spring seasonal this year. And then we're going to follow that up pretty shortly, Memorial Day weekend, with our honeysuckle saison again, which was a big hit last summer. We use a pound of honeysuckle flowers per barrel in that.
We had that down here last year, and that went over really well. So maybe let's talk a little bit about some of those seasonals. Okay, we have the cocoa stout here, the IPL, the Pilsner, and the smoked red. I think these are kind of the ones that you can get pretty much year-round. What other beers can we grab from you if we're down at the liquor store ordering through Johnson Brothers?
So those are the only four that we bottle, but on draft, we're going to sell some of this black IPA that we're going to have next week already. The honeysuckle saison, of course, and then we do. The fall is a busy time of year for seasonals. We do an Oktoberfest. We call it Westoberfest. It's a very true to style Marzen. It's not caramely. It's just a malty, great, clean lager. And then we follow that right up with a pumpkin spice Belgian double called Punk Pie, which is just really, really good if you're into those pumpkin spice beers. We don't actually use pumpkin. We're just using the spices. And the malt that we use turns out tastes pretty true to a pumpkin spice beer. It just comes out together real nice.
So where do you see the trends in beer? I think you've got some real solid beers here. Do you think the trends in the Midwest are going to continue towards the wild and crazy? God forbid the oak beers, or is it going to do sour beers, or what do you see coming out of this?
I think barrel-aged beers, that trend is already here. I think sour beers are going to come, but I really think the bulk of beers are going to become, you're going to see a lot more lagers. You're going to see a lot more sessionable beers, lower alcohol beers, but that are just as flavorful. I don't think overall it's going to go crazy, but you're definitely going to see more and more sours and barrel-aged beers and wild fermented beers and that kind of thing. And that's going to be mostly coming out of really, really small breweries. I would be surprised if there's going to be a big 50,000 barrel a year sour beer brewery anytime soon in the Midwest.
Ange is in the back here. She missed it, but she wanted to know about the honeysuckle because what took us like 2 days to go through a 6 barrel of it. So that one put us down for at least one of those when it turns up next. When is that coming out? You mentioned it. When's the release date on that?
We're gonna release it again.
Well, put us down for at least one, right, Angela? Angela says at least one beer. Tell me a little bit about collaborations. You guys done some of that with other breweries or other local producers in the area, or is that on your roadmap?
It's on our roadmap. We haven't done it yet. We've just been kind of going, trying to keep up. We've talked a bunch with Gandy Dancer down in Sioux Falls. I've talked with Peace Tree Brewing Company a little bit about possibly doing a collaboration. We did do a brew for Mason City Brewing Company. We did a session IPA for them for Ragbri last year, which is bicycle right across Iowa. And that wasn't even a collaboration. We just kind of did it because they're a 3-barrel brewery. They just didn't have enough beer for this 25,000 people on bikes. So we just did a 115-barrel batch for them just to give them some extra beer. So we're looking for stuff like that to do. We just haven't done it yet.
So northwest Iowa, I'd imagine, is much like eastern South Dakota. How have you guys made a splash on the beer scene down there? Have you converted a lot of people? Do you find people come in seeking craft beer, or do they come in just looking for different beers and want to experiment? What's your average customer like down there?
I would say locally at our tap room, our average customer is a little bit older, but they not traditionally craft beer drinkers, I'd say, but which is maybe why we sell the most Pilsner out of our tap room. But I would say for the most part, we're very well received, and our smoked red is on tap pretty much everywhere in Okoboji.
Well, cool. I need to get down there. I think Ange has been down. I think all of my bartenders have been there except for me. So I apologize. I will get down there. Maybe I'll come down here one of these weekends here, Carl, and we'll have you back up here in Brookings. Last question for you. For those that are looking to get into the craft beer industry, whether it be through a brewing job or through a tap room or for anything, what words of advice would you give those watching and those in the room here if they're looking to get into craft beer?
That's tough. I would say it does take a little bit of luck to get into the beer industry. There's a lot of people willing to work for free. I don't like that. I don't think anyone should have to work for free. But I think you got to understand that if you're going to start at the bottom in the beer industry, you're not going to make very much money, and it's going to be a while. And you got to understand that you're really just going to scrub stuff. And if you can get around that and you can just enjoy cleaning, you'll be just fine. And there is no job that you're above. You're going to clean the gutters no matter how far along you are in your career. I still do it. Everyone still does it. So you can't have too much pride. You just got to realize you're going to clean a lot of stuff.
Cleanliness is next to godliness. Hey, Carl, it is always a pleasure to have you on and to talk to you. Again, I want to see you up here in Brookings when we can do it again sometime. Appreciate your time tonight. Thanks for making these awesome beers. We're going to have them on tap down at the pub here for a while. So anybody online or anybody that in the pub that hasn't got one yet, we'll get them poured. We appreciate it, Carl. You keep making awesome beers. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks a bunch, Seth.
Cheers, mate. Alrighty, that will be posted to YouTube. Thank you very much. Good job. That was fun to talk. I will throw it out to YouTube as soon as I get the link.